Hey, welcome back to another exciting edition of Sip and Smoke Santinos. I'm your host, Billy Crow, along with the owner, Santino, and the cigar manager, Scott here. Guys, how are we doing today? We're having another fun, exciting weekend here at the shop.
Absolutely.
We're kicking into springtime, so we've got some rainy days ahead of us that are really exciting for coming in a place like this, sitting down, smoking, hanging out with your boys or your gals, and having a good time. And as usual, we're gonna be talking about a cigar of the week. We're gonna be talking about a whiskey of the week, how they pair, and a special. But before we get into that, today we're gonna do something a little different. Our other episodes, we talked a little bit about things going on in Santino's, things Santino's offers. But today we're gonna get into a little more technical stuff about how to cut and light a cigar.
Absolutely.
And so, Scott, we talked about you're really excited about talking about all the different ways we cut cigars and what they're for, because it's not just everybody sees the guillotine cutter here and we just go, oh, I just need one of these, I hit it and I go and rock and roll, right? But there's a little bit more to it to that. Is that correct?
That is true. So there's actually 3 ways to cut in a cigar. You have like what Billy was saying. We have the guillotine cut. We have the V cut over here, and then we also have a punch cut, which all 3 of us have one of each right now. I believe you have the punch cut.
The punch cut.
Yep, you have the straight cut, and I have the V cut. And so the guillotine cut or straight cut, as it's called, is probably the most common, the most one that you'll see amongst all cigar aficionados out there. The second most common would probably be the V cut. The reason why that you would want to do a straight cut would be most likely on a box press cigar. It works really well on that as well. But it opens up the cigar and it gives you the full flavor of what the roller wanted you to smoke and what he intended for you to smoke. Usually that's what they roll their cigars for, is for the straight cut. The V cut is more for like a narrow channel, and it also helps keep that tobacco off of your mouth and out of your tongue. See how it's deep in there. So people who get a lot of that tobacco in their teeth or in their mouth or whatever, they like to do the V cut. And it also concentrates the smoke, so that way you get a little bit more of a powerhouse out of the cigar. And then the punch cut is probably the least common of them all, but that gives you an even narrower channel for that smoke. Sure. And it really helps take up those flavors from a 7 or an 8 to a 10 and really hit it over the palate.
And I'm going to throw a little caveat in there. Now, I understand you explained all the different types of cuts and the reason it's important. But I'm going to throw something out there for the people that are tuning in this week. If you have a torpedo cigar, typically you would straight cut it. But try a V cut. A V cut on a torpedo is excellent. And another little point, when you mentioned about punching cigars, as you get to larger ring gauge cigars, a punch may not be adequate to get enough of a draw, let's say on a 6x60.
Absolutely.
So people who enjoy a punch cut, just take into consideration, if it's not smoking the way you would like, you may try a different cut. Like
absolutely.
You suggested.
And again, with the punch cut, I only use it on Padrones because Padrones is a single cap cigar. So most cigars, they come with a triple cap. Padron is one of those manufacturers that come with only a single cap, where that punch is actually a lot better because you'll go with a guillotine or a V cut and it'll actually crack or it'll destroy that cap. So a punch cut is actually way better for that.
So we've brought up a couple different types of wraps, different types of cigars, and why different punch styles would be, or cut styles would be useful. Say the average person walking into your humidor, how would they know which cut their cigar needs to be?
Like I said, it's personal preference. So, I mean, like I said before, if it was a Padron, I would always recommend that you punch those, because if you go with any other cut, you're risking destroying that cap of the cigar more than you are helping yourself.
We tend to help up customers, especially if they ask. So a lot of times people just ask, hey, what cut should I use for this cigar? And then we're happy to oblige. And sometimes if I just see someone just thinking about it a little too long, I'll interject. And people have their preferences.
Exactly.
As you said.
And you can always start them off on a V cut, because that's like the least amount, I guess you could say, or even a punch cut would be the least amount to take away from it. And then you can always work your way up. So if you want to do a punch cut and you're smoking it and you don't like it, then you can go up to a V cut. If you don't like the V cut, go for the straight cut. And that changes the cigar significantly from one cut to the other.
I think you guys bring up a great point. A lot of folks out there will buy cigars online because everything's bought online today, right? But they don't get that personal touch of like, hey, that cigar, this is how I like to cut it. Try this. You might get more out of it. That's something that you're never going to get with an online distributor that you're going to get here in Santino's. That personal touch to make sure you get the most out of that $20, $30 cigar,
Exactly.
right? That, is for a special occasion. You want to make sure it's done right.
Right.
Exactly.
Now, the second part of that, obviously after the cut, the next most critical part, which a lot of folks don't really think a lot about, is the lighting. So, Santino, tell us a little bit about your lighting technique and why you like that.
Well, I've been smoking about 15 years, 10 years in business. Unfortunately, there's some real common mistakes.
Sure.
Probably the most common after, I don't want to get into cutting because we spent a whole segment on cutting. So if you've gotten past that part, the most common mistake that occurs after that is the lighting process, right? The end of the cigar that you light is called the foot, and you want to toast the foot. And toasting the foot is where the problem occurs for a lot of people. No matter if you have a single flame torch, a double, a triple, a quadruple, I don't care what you're using. But although a single flame is sufficient and totally adequate, you don't need multiple flames, okay? It doesn't make it better. But typically what people do is they jam that flame into the foot of the cigar, okay? And what you're doing is you're transferring that butane into the tobacco, which is not ideal. That's why you would never want to use like a Bic lighter,
Sure.
because now you're putting lighter fluid instead of butane into your cigar, and you're going to taste some of that. So the heat in and of itself will simply light the cigar. And as you're lighting it, you're rotating it to get an even burn on the wrapper because you don't want it to tunnel. And that's, then as you get that foot cherry red at a distance with the heat, then just simply take a couple, 2 or 3 puffs in and out while you're continuing to get the foot nice and hot, and then you're set. It's done. Now I've done this, and we've been talking.
Well, this is the difference between an amateur and professional, right there. Right, mine's not quite as even as yours. But so if someone is lighting their cigar and the flame touches their cigar, they're too close.
They're simply too close. And if the situation is appropriate, I might suggest, or staff might suggest, hey, we'll explain this process, and then it kind of registers, and it hopefully we give them a better smoking experience. That's the whole point.
Definitely.
Now, what about, I've seen guys that only light, especially in the pipe world, but I've seen in the cigar world, where they'll only light them cigars with matches, or they'll light the cedar, a strip of cedar, and then light their cigar with the cedar. How do you feel about those, and what does that offer?
Man, we always have plenty of cedar sticks for free for people to use. They're usually at the end of the bar, and a great way to light a cigar. Once again, there's no, as far as if you keep the flame out of the foot of the cigar, there's no right or wrong way if you want to use a cedar stick. I've done it many times. It's a nice little, demonstration. It's, if you're outside, it's a little difficult if the wind's blowing and stuff.
Absolutely.
But it's a neat way to try.
Yeah.
Light a cigar.
Like I like to tell people is think about it in terms of you're trying to warm up the oils in the tobacco. You're not trying to burn them. Don't burn the tobacco, warm it up. And that's the best way that you can go into it thinking is like, I need to make sure that this is not going to catch fire. You don't want to see the end of your cigar burst into flames. You just want to gradually heat it up. And then sometimes you can turn it around and you can even blow on it and you can see that cherry glow. And that's how you know whether or not you have a full lit cigar or not.
So we've been talking about how to light these cigars, how to cut these cigars. Now let's get into the cigar itself. Today we are smoking an AJ Fernandez New World Diseño. Is that how we pronounce it?
Yes, it is.
I'm not real good with those Spanish words, right?
It's decade.
Yeah, they're
decade.
celebrating 10 years of the New World with that.
Fantastic. So, Scott, tell us a little bit about this cigar.
So this cigar is a dark, oily wrapper, by the way. It's a Mexican San Andreas wrapper. It's got a Nicaraguan binder, and it's got fillers from Nicaragua and Honduras. As I said before, Decenio is marking the 10th anniversary of the New World, of their New World line. It's fantastic line, by the way. The dry notes I got off of it were a little bit of espresso, some little bit of cocoa, very earthy, very, very earthy. The first third that I'm getting right now is just a lot of like a chocolate bomb almost. I don't know if you guys are getting that as well.
Yes,
it's like a
chocolate,
big cocoa bomb.
Yep.
A lot of earth notes on it. Like I said, oily wrapper from the San Andreas Valley. A very nice cigar. Beautiful band too. I don't know if you guys actually seen the band or not.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
It's a
band.
beautiful blue band.
He does great artwork. His whole New World series, just a great brand. It's probably one of my people always ask, what do I like to smoke?
Mhm.
I have about 2 or 3 brands I really like, and AJ's always been one of those from day one.
Well, AJ's got his hand in so many different cigars, and so many different. He's got Monte Cristos. He's got his hand in so many different blends out there. I mean, the guy's a genius. I'm just not gonna sugarcoat it.
And it's simple as sometimes when big companies have been around a long time, sometimes when their brands kind of falter and sales slow down, I mean, they actually approach AJ and said, hey, help reblend this.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, that cigar takes off again. So I just found him to be such quality. He has a lot of passion for what he
A lot of respect for
has
him.
his own farm in Nicaragua, well respected in the industry and well loved by customers.
He had a bad fire, I think, last year, unfortunately. But he's recovering from that, from I heard.
Yes.
Everybody pitched in to help him out, actually.
So when it comes to cigars, I think when it comes to tobacco in general, I think about like pipe tobacco is some of them are got a little more of a nick kick, some don't. So some of them are a little more of like an all day smoke. Some of them are your nice after dinner with dessert smoke. Some of them are with a nice steak. Where does this cigar sit in that profile for you guys?
This to me is more of the medium to full profile to me. And I would definitely have this after lunch. I don't think it's quite such a powerhouse that you have to have it as your last cigar of the night or even after dinner. I think this can be a very good afternoon smoke. I certainly wouldn't have it in the morning. That wouldn't do that. But maybe after lunch, maybe even a brunch cigar.
So maybe not an all day smoke, but a lunch business meeting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Smoke.
For me, it's slightly different.
Okay.
Because Scott and I, we've talked about my palate's a little different with nuances and tasting notes. I find this to be a little fuller, and I could use this as an after dinner smoke.
There you go.
For myself.
Yeah, that makes sense because everybody's got a different nicotine tolerance.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's ironic. AJ makes a cigar called Last Call. And that's actually after dinner in the evening.
So on the price range, is this this is not an entry level cigar.
Not at all.
Where does this sit? Is this one of your higher end ones? Is this kind of in the middle of it? Like if a guy comes in and says, hey, I want a middle, like I'm not, this is my price point. I'm kind of something in the middle, something that's fancy, but not going to break my bank. Is this that kind of cigar? Or is this one of those like, hey, this is just special occasion. You just closed that business deal. No. You've just finalized that divorce, right? Like, what kind of cigar is this?
This is definitely like your mid entry level cigar. I would definitely say. I mean, it's what, $14 to $16 maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's really approachable depending on the size.
Yeah, right.
We're smoking a Robusto this morning.
So depending on the size, I think it's $14 to $16. Very affordable, very good. Again, you can get a box of them for 20% off. We offer 20% off.
20%
if you want to get them. So they're even cheaper that way. I think they're $11 at that point.
Yeah, no, that's a great deal for this. Is like we've had some other cigars that are in that price range here and other places that I've had that are nowhere near as good as this. This is fantastic.
This is a premium cigar at an affordable price.
I would say I would expound that even further. Balance. This cigar is balanced. That's what I wanted to say, because I think that's like the big note that I want to hit here today, is because as we're talking about the Woodford here in a little bit and the cigar and how much they do balance each other, this cigar itself is the identity of balance.
I agree. We've talked many times about how we balance our cocktails, and that's why so many people come from all over to get a quality drink, and it's nice. And we're gonna dovetail right into this. I'm excited. We're gonna talk about the pairing it next, but there's a reason that we paired these together. And a lot of it has to do with what you just mentioned, balance.
Yep.
So moving on quickly, because we talked a lot about cigars and stuff like that. We're going to be pairing that today with Woodford's Reserve's Double Oak. I'm not a huge bourbon guy, but this is the bourbon. If I'm going to a bourbon, this is the one I want to pick. It's the Woodford Reserve, but it's double H because it's double oak, very oaky, and it's not a high octane, high proof powerhouse or anything like that. So we've got it. We've got some poured. So let's go ahead and take a sniff. That is just the sweetness there. You can tell it's a
caramelly.
Bourbon.
Very.
I've smelled the caramel.
Yeah, very.
But it's not knocking you off for like it's not a huge,
But oaky too, though.
very
Like
oaky.
but it smells high octane, but I hope it's not.
Right.
You know, I'm in my second, third. I may be a little further. Now, one thing I'm going to back up. You were mentioning the tasting notes as you first. I noticed a lot of black pepper
Yeah.
in the first third, but now that I'm into the second third, that black pepper has subsided. You do taste the cocoa, and now I think after smelling the caramel, I think the caramel is
It's
going
gonna be perfect.
to
Yeah.
balance
Exactly,
all of this.
yeah.
All right, let's take a sip.
Oh wow.
That is everything a bourbon should be right there.
Yeah.
Very
Sweet.
smooth.
Very
And-
smooth, sweet. oaky.
Part of the balance is we're using Woodford Double Oak today,
Mhm.
and it's 90.4 proof. So it comes in at a lower proof. You know, a lot of times people want that high proof,
Yeah.
that barrel strength, but it's really pleasurable to balance the drink, the cocktail, the
Yeah.
bourbon
Right. I
with
feel like
the cigar.
I feel like if we had like 120 proof or higher, it would really drown out this. Not that this cigar can carry its own, but that balance of just the smoothness, the leatheriness, and the
Leather is what I
chocolate
got. Yep.
with the paired with the caramely and the oakiness of the double oak. It's just a perfect little.
It
treat.
really is. I also get a little bit of campfire on the back end. I don't know if you guys got that same thing.
Oh yeah.
But on the back end of that, there's that campfire, almost like a ashy, woody kind of oaky
Yeah.
campfire. When you pair the both of them, you have a drink and you have a smoke. Very nice.
and you know, in the title, Double Oak, it simply just means they age it in two separate oak barrels.
Yep.
Yep.
Very good.
Now this is another one of those whiskeys that you have that is a very premium product at a very reasonable price. Where does this kind of sit in when it comes to your whiskeys?
Price wise,
Yeah.
probably in that $10 range for an ounce and a half pour.
Yep. That's very reasonable. Very
Once
reasonable.
again, it makes the cigar and the drink very affordable.
Yeah. If you like that oak flavor, if you like that deep oak flavor, highly recommend this. And I bet it would be phenomenal if you want to add a little bit more caramelly sweetness to it, have it in an old fashioned. And I bet it's absolutely amazing.
And you use Woodford Double Oak to make the old fashioned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's fantastic. So which leads into the fact that every time we do one of these, at the end of the show, if you've hung around long enough, you're here, you know that we have a special, that Santino has a special that this week after the show, when you pair Woodford Double Oak Reserve Double Oak with this cigar, that it's 20% off, right?
That's correct.
So you're going to pour one of these, you're going to get 20% off. That's some real savings because that's just not just knocking off the tax. That's actually knocking something off the real price of it. So make sure you come in this week and try one of these out. If you see one of us, say hi. Let us know you like the show. And if there's anything you guys want to see in the comments below, make sure you say, hey, I like this cigar. I've always, tell me about this cigar. Tell me about this technique. Tell me about this whiskey. Like, we want to get your feedback to make this show better for you. So anything else, guys, before we leave these folks and then finish enjoying our cigars?
I would just say that please come in and try a pair of this. This is absolutely one of my favorite pairings. If anybody was going to put this in my top 5, this would definitely be in my top 3. I'm just letting you guys know between the price of the Woodford and the Decenio, and you're getting 20% off. The value for what you're getting for the quality is absolutely phenomenal.
And I'll go one step further. We'll do 20% off on the Woodford Oak
There you
as
go.
well.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, listen, guys, we'll see you next time. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Let your friends know about it and come in and tell us what you think.
Thanks for tuning in this week, and spring is around the corner.
See you next week.